Yeah, overall, pretty good job. So usually what I'm gonna do is squint at the painting as well as the reference and sort of compare. I think the first thing that you could do, just in general, and this is for everybody, is if you're doing studies like this, just make a gray background, because if it's a white background, it's very hard to see the correct values. So that's that. When we take a look at this, actually, let's go ahead and put it at a filter gallery. There we go. Where is it? Cut out. Oh, it already was.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do that in Procreate. The closest thing I could do is just sort of like use a sort of like Gaussian blur.
Yeah, that's fine too.
And then make it black and white. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look at the shapes of what the highlights actually are, it's like you have these kind of triangles happening. And then within those triangles, there's even another, we can say, island of highlights. Right. And so it's important to look for these shapes, even without the filter. So if we were to turn this off, you could still pretty much see that they're there and pretty obvious. But what that means is when you go over here, this highlight should not bleed into all this other area. So if we just tone everything down, set that to darken. Let's turn off all that stuff. Tone it back down. Bring it down. Bring it down. And of course, this is for all the other ones too. If we just put a highlight in that same shape of that triangle, it will be in the right spot. And there was another one here. A little bit there. And it's actually less work than you might think. It's not too much placement of shapes, but now when you zoom out, it really reads properly. So if we turn it off, values everywhere. Now we're bringing it back to our first lesson in the course of like making sure the roundedness of the head is obvious. And then from here, you can kind of put in those like stronger highlights. As we said, like there's like more subtle highlights happening in there. So be sure to build up your values like this. And then as you go down here, there's a lot of complexity happening, or so it seems. But if you do a quick wireframe, you can kind of see that there's like shapes where there's like this reverse donut thing happening there. There's a sphere here with the cut like that, which gives us a core shadow, another core shadow, a cast shadow, an underside. Be careful to, try to pay attention to that stuff, because when you have it over here, it'll look better. So if we just kind of fill everything in real quick, and then we'll do that quick donut one. There's just a shadow like this. We'll shade upward, and then a cast shadow does something like this. Core shadow, straight line. And I think I went too dark, but this will start showing the form a little better. All right, so if we turn that off, it makes more sense. And of course, soften it up. And then bring in some of these hotspot highlights like that. And then when in doubt, just keep ping-ponging your eyes back and forth. Try to see what's really there, and you'll be on your way. Anyway, it's not perfect, but that's the idea.
Yeah, that chin part was difficult for me.
Yeah. Just get in there, put a wireframe on there, and use that as your reference.
Gotcha.
But this one's pretty good. So this value here is really close to white as well as the background. So I think when I look at over here, there's probably a bigger distinction, maybe because it's against a dark background. Let me just check. Actually, it's pretty close to what you have. Yeah, I would say just make sure you get that background in there so that it's not seeming like it's the wrong value. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, just some darkness back there will help that. But even having said that, I might even make the midtones here a bit darker like this, so that that highlight really stands out a little bit better. That way you avoid oversaturating, overexposing the values where they become too bright. And now
Right.
and now with that, we're showing the form a little bit better. And that, I guess that sort of treatment can happen throughout the whole piece. And I do like that you have that soft gradation here where it goes from dark to light, and that transition shows form pretty well. One thing that I would recommend is don't go too dark on that shadow. I feel like it might be a little too sunken in. You know, it's okay if it's just halfway to black. Yeah. So watch for those values. Might as well just keep this shadow pretty sharp. And then slight highlight right there. But overall, I'm just nitpicking at this point. Let's take a look at your other ones.